Puju, Ogimakwe Nindijnakas, Waswaganing Nindujaba, Nin Dudam Gigu. Welcome, good afternoon for today's second event of Native American Heritage Month. This afternoon we have a Veterans Honor Ceremony, and I'm very proud to introduce the MC of this event. His name is Dennis Zotai. He's Dakota, Pueblo, and Kiowa Native, and he's a cultural and communication specialist at the Smithsonian National Museum of American Indian. So it's a pleasure right now to introduce Mr. Zotai.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. For the next item on the Indian Affairs and Department of Interior's National Native American Heritage Month 2019 celebration agenda, Veterans Honoring Day, when we honor our Native American veterans and all veterans of America's armed forces past and present. I'm Dennis Zotai, a cultural specialist with the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian, and I am the MC for this portion of today's program. As American Indians, we have always been defenders of our lives, our lands, our families, our way of life, and we have carried this tradition throughout our entire existence. As Native Americans and patriotism, we have fought on the sides of the United States from revolutionary times to our current conflicts in the Middle East. And so it's very important that we are defenders of our lands in the past, in the present, and as we go future. This is our land, and this is why we fight. Today, I'd like to share with you some things in Washington, D.C. that are taking place in the near future that are going to make Native people proud. The first is our Native American National Veterans Memorial, which is now being built on the grounds of the National Museum of the American Indian, and will have its grand opening next Veterans Day in the year 2020. And right behind the Department of Interior, they are now building the World War I Memorial. And incidentally, they have an Indian component because Indians were a major presence in this war. To your right, there is a separate seat, and this is to honor our veterans who did not return, who laid down the supreme sacrifice of their lives for their country, for you and I. On the seat, there is a Pendleton. On this Pendleton sits a white lily, sweetgrass, and tobacco. As we look at this, we're reminded that we're very fortunate here to be alive, to have things to look forward to, but that we also remember our past because there are people who paid the price that we can have this blessing. This afternoon, we will hear from Brigadier General Joanne K. Mathews, a member of the Lac du Flambeau Band of Chippewa, who was the first Brigadier General in Wisconsin and the Army National Guard's first Native American women to achieve the rank of general. But before we hear from General Mathews, the Zotai Drum Group will perform 2 songs, including an honor song for all veterans. Will you please rise? you please remain standing as we sing an honor song? And this will be a veteran song. This particular song is called Stars and Stripes and remembers the colors of our country. Thank you very much. You may be seated. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today. She is Brigadier General Joanne K. Mathews. Brigadier General Joanne Mathews is Wisconsin's Deputy Adjutant General for the Army. As such, she is responsible for the Adjutant General for all aspects of its mission, performance, and readiness in response to any federal or domestic requirements pertaining to 7,500 soldiers of the Wisconsin National Army Guard. The Wisconsin National Army Guard has 4 major subordinate commands: the 32nd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, the 157th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, the 64th Troop Command, and the 426th Regiment. Brigadier General Mathews holds a bachelor's degree in Aviation Administration from the University of North Dakota Grand Forks, a master's degree in Military Management from Touro University, and a master's degree in Strategic Studies from the U.S. Army War College. Her military education includes Army Aviation Basic and Advanced Courses, Combined Arms and Services Staff School, the Command and General Staff College, the U.S. Army War College, Joint Task Force Commanders Training Course, and the National Security Management Course. She has also completed the Initial Entry Rotary Wing Course, Helicopter Instruction Courses, and Maintenance Test Pilot Course. Brigadier General Mathews received her ROTC commission in 1986 as a second lieutenant, Aviation Branch. Serving nearly 11 years on active duty, her first assignment was the U.S. Army Aviation School in Fort Rucker, Alabama, where she served as an instructor pilot and platoon commander. Upon transfer to Germany, she served as a maintenance platoon leader, company executive officer, company commander, battalion operations officer, and battalion personnel officer. Brigadier General Mathews' participation in Operation Provide Comfort, where she flew numerous sorties in the non-fly zone of northern Iraq. Transferring back to the States, she was assigned as an aviation logistics team leader with the Aviation Readiness Division at Fort Sheridan, Illinois. Brigadier General Mathews joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard in 1997, serving in various positions such as Battalion Supply Officer, State Family Program Coordinator, Brigade Personnel Officer, Battalion Executive Officer, and simultaneously as the Deputy Director of the Personal GI and Commander of the 147th Aviation Battalion. After completing the residency, Army War College, she served simultaneously as a Director of the Personnel G1 and Commander for the 64th Troop Command. In October 2013, Brigadier General Mathews became the Chief of Staff for the Wisconsin Army National Guard. In April 2016, she became the Assistant Adjutant General for Readiness and Training. In June 2018, she assumed her current duties as Wisconsin's Deputy Adjutant General for Army. Brigadier General Mathews' military awards includes the Legion of Merit with 1 Oak Leaf Cluster, Meritorious Service Medal with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, the Army Commendation Medal with 2 Oak Leaf Clusters, Army Achievement Medal, National Defense Service Medal, Master Aviator Badge, and other federal and state awards. Will you please welcome our keynote speaker, Brigadier General Joanne K. Mathews.
Boy, you know you're old when your bio goes on for minutes on end. Buju, giwe no kwe nindijnakaz, oswaganing nidujibab, nindumen gigu. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, veterans, and employees of the Department of the Interior. My English name is Joanie Mathews. My Ojibwe name is Giwe no kwe. It means bucking the wind. I'm a member of the Lac de Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians, and I am the Fish Clan. It is an honor to be here today and celebrate the thousands of servicemen and women who defend our freedom each and every day. Before I talk to you about my journey that brings me to where I am today, I want to pay homage to those who came before us and laid the groundwork for this annual tribute to our veterans. 100 years ago, at 11:11 a.m., the guns fell silent on the battlefields of Europe. In its wake, the Great War left tens of millions dead. The horrific war, which began in 1914, culminated that 11th day of November in 1918 with the armistice, which was once celebrated as the day the war to end all wars concluded. Of course, we know that it wasn't the war to end all wars. An even more devastating and horrific conflict erupted just 20 years later in Europe, Africa, and the Philippines. And in both cases, the American servicemen, seemingly ordinary people like you and me, were there to answer the call while the fate of the free world hung in the balance. Many of my family members served in World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, and Desert Storm. For their service, their inspiration, their strength, their dedication, and pride to service and country, I am forever grateful. I grew up on a small reservation in northern Wisconsin with a population then of about 2,000 enrolled tribal members. I am a family of 5 children, 3 sisters, 1 brother. Both of my parents are Ojibwe with a little German and Norwegian sprinkled in. My dad served in the United States Army, the proud 82nd Airborne. He was my inspiration to serve. After military service, he served for the tribe in various capacities. But what I remember most was his dedication and love for our military.
He would ensure our town had an appropriate Memorial Day service, Veterans Day celebration, and led every parade during the 4th of July, yelling cadence to the men of the American Legion as they marched down Main Street. As the post commander, he would give speeches at the memorial honoring our veterans and would ensure those who have left us received full military honors at their burial. Attending powwows was a weekly occurrence for us growing up, and I was always very proud to see my dad, my uncles, family friends dance their way into the arena, leading their dancers, carrying the eagle staff, the U.S. flag, our tribal flag, along with the service flags. Honoring Native warriors and veterans have always been a part of our Indigenous culture, and I learned early on how very proud our Native American community is of our veterans. I'm so grateful because I believe growing up where I did led me to where I am today, still serving after 33 plus years. Now, those of you who are trying to do the math and try to figure out how old I am, I joined when I was 10. Sticking to that story. Life wasn't easy growing up on the reservation. Like today, our own struggles with drugs, alcohol, and poverty still exist, and perhaps still today, but worse when I was young. There was racism, prejudice, and stereotyping of our Native people. Growing up as a light-skinned blonde, I wasn't a direct recipient of that bad behavior, but my family was. During the 1980s, there were many violent clashes over the issue of Ojibwe spearfishing. I personally witnessed rock throwing, name-calling, and fighting. Sometimes hundreds of white protesters showed up at the boat landings as Ojibwe fishermen prepared to spearfish walleye and other species of fish. It pained me to see this. I couldn't understand why there was such a misunderstanding of our rights. I couldn't understand why there was so much hatred. But as I think about it, and I think about the type of experiences that I lived through, they helped shape me. And if you've heard Mike's speech this morning, Mike, you and I share the same experiences. I was that white blonde kid who was trying to fit in with the native kids, the dark hair, dark skin, not really fitting in. I was also bullied. I'll never forget, I was a bunch of white Indian girls were surrounded me, and they were pushing me and fighting me, and I mean, it never stopped in grade school. But similar to you, as I moved on into high school and later, those same bullies became friends. They grew up and understood the person who I was. And what really, really made me feel good was just last year, this girl that I hadn't seen in years, she was the leader of the bullies. She was very, very angry all the time. I saw her at an event that was called the Challenge Academy. We have one in Wisconsin, and there's one in just about every state. It's run by the National Guard, and it's a program that lasts about 6 months to help kids who are at risk of not graduating high school, who they're taught life's lessons, and they get a GED at the end. But anyway, I was at this graduation, and this bully was there with her granddaughter. And it's a very moving graduation, and it's a very tough 6 months for these kids to get all the way through, and a very proud moment when they do graduate. And she came up to me, and I didn't quite recognize her because it had been years since I'd seen her. She said, "I want to apologize. I want to apologize for my behavior back when I was in grade school. I was very mean, and I feel really bad about it." And you could have knocked me over with a feather. It made me feel really, really good. But people learn from that, and I think as we grow older, we mature and we understand the things that we did, and we try not to let that happen again. But my family, my parents, they helped me understand that it's critically important to not judge people just by the way they look or the way they act, and to treat people equally and with respect. My dad was my role model when it came to leading and doing what is right for our people. My mom was my role model when it came to diligence and attitude. She had such drive. She had a strong work ethic, and she pushed through whatever challenge or struggle she faced. You see, as a young mother with 5 kids, she worked as a waitress at a supper club. And she did this to help make ends meet. Every night before she left for work, she made sure we had dinner on the table, made sure our clothes were clean and ready for the next day, and our homework was done. She instilled in me to work hard, to never give up, and to never use the word can't. She would say, turn that word around and make it into a can. And it's funny how when I was given my Indian name at a young age of around 8, the tribal elder who gave me that name knew the person I was back then and the person I would become. Giwade no kwe, bucking the wind, meeting all challenges head on and never giving up. My mom and dad also taught me to be humble, to never brag. Shortly after I was promoted to Brigadier General, I was and still am honored to carry the Eagle Staff at powwows I attend. For those of you who don't understand, in many tribes, that request is the highest form of respect bestowed upon anyone. Every time I'm asked, I always feel like I am not worthy of this honor. Those who ask me are usually the elders and the veterans who I looked up to when I was a kid, who I honored. I honored for their service and for their sacrifice. I honored them for fighting for our rights and freedom that we enjoy every day. So whenever an elder would ask me to carry the Eagle Staff, I would look at them and say, I am not worthy. You are really the one who should be doing this. I'm just little Joni Brown from the reservation who used to play freeze tag in the backyard, and I would look up to you. But I had to take that Eagle Staff, and it was just the highest honor. And again, I didn't feel like I was worthy. The other day, I was asked to present a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart to a 96-year-old woman whose brother, Sergeant Robert McCarville, who was killed in action during World War II. His remains were finally identified after 70-plus years. The following day, I presented her the U.S. flag during full military funeral honors. I was very fortunate enough to spend a couple of days with her and sit and talk with her and learn about her life of 13 kids growing up with her older brother, the one who had passed away when he was 24 years old, fighting in World War II. She was a little old lady in a wheelchair, beautiful dark blue eyes, just the sweetest lady. Her mind was still there, and I so enjoyed talking with her. And when I presented her those 2 awards, and when I presented her that U.S. flag, she looked at me and she said, thank you. Thank you. I feel so honored that you are doing this for me. I'm so glad that you came down to see me and give this to me. And I'm the one who told her, I said, it is my honor. I am the honored one. I am the lucky one. I am the blessed one to be able to do this, to present this flag and these awards on behalf of an American hero, one who lost his life for us. And it is a couple of days I will never, ever forget. I was the honored one. So when we think about our American heroes, we must pause and remember those soldiers who froze through Valley Forge when the idea of a free and independent United States was nothing more than a faint flicker of hope. We must remember the Marines that hopped from Iwo Jima to Okinawa, as well as their Wisconsin National Guard brethren, like Sergeant McCarville, who fought through Buna and the Philippines and the Pacific. And we remember many thousands who stormed the beaches at Normandy. We can never forget our service members who stood in the gap and stared down the Soviets and preserved a tenuous peace in Western Europe, or fought the communists in a frozen Korea winter, or in the steaming jungles of Vietnam. And we must not forget that we still have soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardmen fighting in places like Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. Today's veteran is no different than those earliest patriots. They are men and women who proudly raised their right hand and answered the call when their nation asked. There is a common thread that binds veterans of all conflicts and all services together. They put the needs of their nation ahead of their own personal dreams, ambitions, and often their families, their careers, their education, and more. So not only on Veterans Day, but every day, when you approach a veteran, say thank you. And when that veteran is with their families, thank their families as well. Because they serve and they sacrifice just as much. Spouses and children have to bear months or even years of separation, take on additional duties at home, and all the while worrying for their soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, or Coast Guard who's in harm's way. So be grateful each and every day for the blessings our veterans have secured, for not only our generation of Americans, but for countless more around the world. I want to close with a poem by Chief Tecumseh, Shawnee warrior. As I was reading this, it reminded me of our service members. So you live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view, and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. When it comes your time to die, sing your death song and die like a hero going home. Chimigwech, thank you to my fellow veterans for your service and sacrifice for your country. Chimigwech, for the opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you, General Mathews, for your remarks. We as Native people, in growing up, do not have heroes that we see in common everyday life. We look at America's heroes, and they don't look like us. But you do look like us, and we're very proud of you. Thank you. How about another great big round of applause? At this time, we would like to present plaques to General Mathews and Nick Hanson. We'd like to ask Ms. Tara Sweeney, Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, to come up and make this presentation.
No, the plaques aren't up here. Oh, wait, let me put my glasses on. Well, here we are. Yes, at this time, I would like to welcome General Mathews to the stage, please. Thank you so much for your service, for your dedication, and the remarks that you made this afternoon. Very inspirational, and very, very proud of the service to our country. And for Indian women, Alaska Native women, you certainly are a great role model, so thank you very much. And then, of course, to Mr. Nick Hanson, would you please come seal hop your way on stage? No, I'm kidding. We had an opportunity to visit earlier and share some stories about growing up and the different types of work that we're doing. And as we look at the past and the present, I can say that the future is bright with men like you going out there working every day to serve our needs, our emotional and mental needs in our communities. And Keep up the good work. I'm certainly going to be watching you at WEO, at Arctic Winter Games, but also on American Ninja Warrior. We're always screaming at the TV when you're up and hoping that you make it to the next level. So with that, please continue what you're doing and to serve as that shining star for the young men and young women in our communities. Hoyanakpa.
And thank you, Secretary Sweeney. Please stand for the retiring of the colors and remain standing for songs performed by the Zotai Singers. Thank you. You may be seated. We'd like to thank the OJS Color Guard, the Zotai Drum Group, Brigadier General Mathews, and Nick Hanson for being here today, and to you for joining us in honoring all veterans. This concludes our afternoon event, and remember that November 15th is Rock Your Marks Day. So rock your marks on that day, November 15th. Thank you very much. Oh.